I just got caught up on the Mighty Nein. I just finished episode 5, The Little Spark, and wow, we have come a long way since Vox Machina. Welcome back, everyone. We're here to talk about episodes 2, 3, 4, and 5 of the Mighty Nein. If you missed my episode 1 review, you can check that out over here. This show is something else, man, and it is crazy to think where we started with Critical Role. Like, The Legend of Vox Machina is still an amazing campaign, and I love it, and I can't wait to finish that campaign out as well. And I'm not saying that the Mighty Nein is better, but I am saying that there are some changes here that I'm noticing as someone that has played Dungeons & Dragons for over a decade that I am thoroughly enjoying. And before we get into this, I want to know, what is your favorite race and class combo? Let me know down in the comments below. What do you like to see in D&D, or what do you like to play? Let me know. The thing I love about Dungeons & Dragons and watching people play the game and hearing the stories of people's campaigns is really hearing about that evolution of the player. And the thing that you'll get to see if you are also a Dungeons & Dragons player is that with this campaign. With the Mighty Nein, we are literally seeing these players make way more creative choices than they did with The Legend of Vox Machina. Now, that's not to knock The Legend of Vox Machina, because I do think that those characters, even though they're a little bit more typical, you have your barbarian that likes to hit everything, that isn't really a big thinker. You've got your bard that's super flirty. Those characters still have a lot of nuance and a lot of dimension to them. So that's not to say that they are completely flat, but they are more typical choices. Basically, I see Vox Machina as Baby's first campaign, and now with Mighty Nein, the possibilities feel endless, and I can feel the joy and the fun of both Matt Mercer as our DM in this campaign and our players getting to explore the limits and test the boundaries of what is possible in Dungeons & Dragons. I mean, we went from mage hand to mage dildo. I can't say that on YouTube. That's gonna have to be bleeped. That's how creative we're getting. We're getting so creative, we're gonna have to start bleeping stuff on this channel. We're going from characters like Vex to characters like Jester with these players, and it's not only about the bold changes from character to character and how different they are, but it's also about how I feel a lot of these characters are really more reflecting the people that are playing them, and how we're watching our players also more fully dive into this world by not creating some idea of who they want to be, but instead using more elements, I think, of themselves. It just feels like a more truthful campaign in terms of what our players are exploring and how it relates to them personally. I love that, and that is actually one of my favorite things about Dungeons & Dragons in general. Is I have said to people that it kind of feels like a therapy aid at times. Like, there's a lot of issues in my life that I have explored through the world of Dungeons & Dragons and worked through, and I can kind of sense all of that with these characters and their own pros and cons to them. There's also just a lot of fun to be had with classes and mixing up classes and races and exploring these classes that are a little bit more niche. Like the fact that we have Beau here, Beauregard, who is a monk. People don't usually play monks. At least I haven't played with a lot of people that have chosen that as a class. So I think that's really fun. There's also some really weird, like, mashups of things. There are a lot of tieflings, and I love tieflings. And I feel that a lot of the times people tend to play tieflings against what they are asking you to play them as. Like, when you look at the stats in the book, like, typically with a tiefling, I think you want, someone that's usually more magical. You want a warlock, a sorcerer, a paladin, a bard, someone that is usually really based in magic. I haven't watched the campaign, the playthrough. I've only watched the show. But based on what I've seen, I think it's really cool because I think Jester is a cleric because she has the Traveler who she talks to and no one else can see. And a lot of her abilities seem to be kind of pulled from that. And they are kind of, still there's a bit of a magical element, I find, to clerics. So that's pretty cool. But then we also have, someone like Molly, who seems more like a rogue, who I think is a blood hunter. I've never played as a blood hunter, so I'm not entirely sure. But that whole idea of just taking fun races and just doing with them whatever you kind of want, it really just feels like everyone came to this campaign being like, okay, well, now we have a handle on how to play this game. How much can I do with it? How crazy can I get? The fact that we also have a party that is so weird and diverse in terms of the types of characters I'm seeing be played is really exciting and interesting, and it makes the campaign even more dynamic. And so while Vox Machina will always have a special place in my heart, and I still love it dearly, I will say that I think Mighty Nein has tapped into the more creative side of these players and the more creative side of what I like to explore in Dungeons and Dragons as someone who has played a lot. I think for those of us that have played the game, there's a lot here for you to love and a lot here for you to notice. There's tons of little Easter eggs for people that are also players or, DMs. And that is something that I find so fun with watching these shows. And it makes me go back and watch the campaigns. So I think that's really cool to go back and see the moments from, table to screen and how they've shifted and changed and become refined, but also just how true to form a lot of them are. I think that's really cool. This is a show that actually had me up on my feet and pacing back and forth because the story is just also so compelling. And I feel that now that Matt also has a better handle on DMing, he is not afraid to throw people just into some really tough spots. There are also times where I can see him guiding people towards stuff and the players actively kind of pushing back against their DM, which is also, I think, really fun to see. I love the relationship of players to DM and how that's showcased in the Mighty Nein. There are moments when I feel like Matt wants everyone to go one way and they're trying to ask, how can we avoid that? Like the point where they're trapped and they're doing their prison break and they want to get all their stuff back. And so they're like, maybe we could just grab it before we go and then we don't have to come back and earn it. We can just take it and go and then still fix our problem maybe, but we don't have to owe anyone anything. You know what I mean? And there are noises that happen that take them away from doing that. People are coming and I just could see Matt at the table when they're trying to do that being like, well, something's a rumbling. That's always what GMs do when they want to guide you away from something. Your game master, your dungeon master will do things like, okay, so what do you guys want to do now? Okay, well, I'd like to sit here and paint a portrait. Okay, well, the ceiling starts to shake a bit. It's giving you signs that you need to get out of there because they don't want you to do that. They want you to take the quest that they have given you. You must do the quest first. And so I love seeing little elements of that. I'm not sure if that's obviously at the table exactly what happened or if that's changes that were made for the show, but it does feel like that little DM versus players push and pull. And I think the push and pull is what makes for a good campaign ultimately, because you never want anything to feel too easy. You never want things to feel like we're all just going through the motions. There should be some sense of challenging each other in a respectful manner. And that's what I feel with this group. And it is a true delight. I also love that we get a lot of the session zeros in some of these episodes. Obviously, with Little Spark, we're basically getting Caleb's backstory and understanding his connection to the assassin that's sort of after them. And when they get back to the prison, who is waiting for them, and his connection to everything else is just the fact that all of these characters also have such intricate ties to the main plot. I love that. It feels like this is a story that was just so well crafted in combination with the players and what they wanted to do and the GM and the story that they wanted to tell, and how do we combine those two things fully. So learning about people's backstory is also something that's cool because it seems to directly tie into the main thread of our storyline for a lot of them. I don't know how everyone connects to it yet, but I have a firm belief that everyone is going to have some ties to what is happening, and there are reasons why everyone kind of ended up here, which I love because it also feels a little bit fated that everyone was at the circus. And then we have a character like Molly who also, reads tarot. And so there is this element of fate that is thrown into the mix. But ultimately, it feels that everyone is here, not just because it's happenstance, but almost because these threads of fate are pulling this party together. And I love getting to explore what that means for each character. So I'm very curious to see more of what that means for characters like Jester as we go on. And I mean, will it be in this story? Will it be in season 1? Or will it be in a later season? I don't know. I imagine we're going to go for a good long while. I know that the Mighty Nein is the campaign that everyone tells me is like one of the best campaigns Critical Role has ever done. I think this is really the one that propelled them kind of to stardom on the scene when it comes to Dungeons and Dragons, live plays, actual plays, whatever you like to call them. So this is something that for me is just an absolute treat. I also love all of these characters. I feel like all of them are so fascinating and so tragic, and having a character like Jester thrown in the mix who is so optimistic about everything and so young is really a delight too, because I can already see how being with this group is going to challenge that in ways and probably break her in some ways. And it's so sad to know about how that's going to happen and watching that come to pass. When we see Nott and Jester interact with each other in these first few episodes, it's that sense of Nott is in such a different headspace than Jester. Getting to see those two interact is like heart-wrenching in ways. I'm just very excited for everyone to also come together and, you know, love each other and become this found family, because this is a really bizarre group of weirdos and strange groupings. It is not your typical, what you would imagine to be your typical party, I guess. Everyone still is filling the roles. Like, we still have people that are doing ranged, people that are more in your face, healers. So the party still feels balanced, but it's just in a more creative way, a more creative approach. I'm just having the time of my life watching it. I can't tell you how fun this has been for me. So I will definitely be continuing along. And if this is something that you would like to hear my thoughts on for each episode, please let me know. Share this with a friend. You know, comment below, like it, hype it if you can. All of those things help, and they let me know that you guys want more of this content. So when a video does well, I do try to make, you know, follow-up videos for you. And this is something that I personally would love to do episodics on. I tried it with Welcome to Derry, but it just wasn't holding anybody's attention, so I had to let it go, even though I'm still watching that show and loving it. So let me know if this is the thing that you would like some episodic reviews on, and I'd be happy to do that for you and go more in depth into each episode. But those are kind of my overarching thoughts on the last few episodes. I want to know, who is your favorite character? Why do you love the Mighty Nein? And how do you feel it compares to the Legend of Vox Machina? Let me know down below. That's all I have for this one. I'll see you guys in the next one. And until next time, friends, as always, stay nerdy. Bye! And if you like when I talk about Dungeons and Dragons and Critical Role, you should check this out.